Hello, how are you? Thank you so much for coming to my channel today. I am so happy to see you there. If you are a returning subscriber, thank you for trusting me and coming to my channel. And if this is the first time you are visiting my channel, I am more than happy and excited to see you here. So welcome. I hope you find this channel very much appropriate for your learning process in terms of your agile journey, becoming a Scrum Master and agile coach and consultant. All I do here is about agile and Scrum. So welcome. I would encourage you highly to please click that subscribe button there and get the notification bar so that anytime I release any new content, you'll be the first. And I mean it, you'll be the first to get notification about my new content. So please click the subscribe button there and help me to share this content on your social media platforms, on your LinkedIn page, and please let's build this community of practice. I try as much as I can to update this page with new information. So thank you for helping me out, and thank you for coming back. All right. A lot of people have been reaching out to me in different ways, asking about continuous improvement, the different process to really iron out this idea of continuous improvement, what is called in Japan, Kaizen. Okay. So today I thought I could bring something very much, very interesting, which is called the Deming cycle. Okay. So as we could see on the screen, what we'll be talking about today is continuous improvement through Deming cycle, or in other words, Deming cycle in Scrum. So if you don't know what Deming cycle is, don't worry. I will be able to walk you through on this idea of Deming cycle and how you can use that in your Scrum journey. As always, I'm going to pull up my board and we'll be able to do this together. Okay, so today we'll be taking a look at this Deming cycle, the idea of plan, do, check, and act. So if you haven't heard about the Deming cycle before, okay, so I will share my knowledge and my thoughts today, and you are more than welcome to please ask me your questions by putting that in the comment section, or as you can see on top of my screen there, email me on my email address, or you can connect with me on my Instagram, and we can be able to continue to refine this knowledge. Okay, so I'm going to give you a little bit background on what this Deming cycle is all about. As you can see on my screen, it's also called Deming wheel because of the author, or because of the champions, people who have championed this idea. So the idea of this Deming cycle originally started with a physicist and statistician from Western Electric and Bell Labs in New York, USA, in the person of Dr. Walter A. Shawhat. Started around in the year around 1920s, right? So it's about 3 steps linear process of problem solving, which is plan, do, and see. Right. So later on, his mentee, Dr. W. Edwards Deming, modified and refined this 3-step linear process. Instead of plan, do, and see, Dr. Deming now came up with 4 cycle. He says it's plan, do, check or study, and act or adjust. Right. It was from these modification that we now have the Deming cycle. So the idea of the Deming cycle was from the name of Dr. Deming, who modified Dr. Shawhat's idea of continuous improvement of plan, do, and see. Okay, so now that you've gotten that information, let us see how this plays out in an ideal situation. So as you can see with the image on my screen, right? So it always starts with a plan, right? You have to plan ahead. You have to idealize what you want to achieve, objectives, and then you have to execute the plan. and you have to kind of an introspection of what you have already executed. Like you have to check, and then the final thing is the act, where you have to close the process. Okay, so I mean this visual representation of this Deming cycle is so resourceful that sometimes it doesn't really matter what kind of situation or services or process or idea you want to execute. Following this Deming cycle could be one way for you as a Scrum Master and for your team to continue to improve um, in the execution of the project you are working on. Okay, so I'm also gonna detail a little bit more on the next slide on how this Deming cycle plays out and how you could materialize it, or things you could be able to carve out from it, in your journey working as a Scrum Master. Right. So now, what really are the objectives? What are the things entail? What are the main content of this Deming cycle? So the first, as we already know, is the plan, right? We already know that the first thing, one of the things you do in project management is to have a plan. After you gather requirements, all about is to figure out what are the things you should put in place, right? So in the planning stage of the Deming cycle, you have to identify the goals and the purposes, or goal and purpose. You have to formulate a theory, right? So in Scrum, if you're going to work on a project, and the thing you got to figure out at this stage is to identify what process you're going to use. Are you going to use Scrum? Are you going to use Kanban? Are you going to use Extreme programming? What is the ideal process? So here it talks about formulating a theory, right? So, and then you have to define your success metrics. How would you measure how much success your team has been able to achieve? So you've got to have a success metrics, and then you have to establish your objectives and expectations. So every ceremony, in each of the ceremonies we do in Scrum, has an objective as a Scrum Master, right? Again, when I teach students, I ask, one of the questions I ask when I teach my students has always been, why do we call the 5 ceremonies? The simple truth is that these are meetings with a purpose. So in the planning stage, you're also going to establish what are you hoping to achieve. In other words, what are the expectations? If you are going in for any of the meetings, your team members should be able to, you as a Scrum Master should be able to highlight the expectation or the objective, what you're hoping to achieve. Now, from the plan, you now go into the do. Now, you have ironed out the ideas you want to implement. The do is when you apply the components of those objectives, the components of the things you have identified in the first phase. Now, the third step is to check or to study. You have to be able to reflect a little bit on the outcomes you have achieved, just to have that introspection in order to identify whether you are still on course or whether you are not on course. And we could see that in the sprint retrospective, where the Scrum team precisely will be able to reflect on the Scrum process. And another way we could see this check is during the sprint review, when you gather feedback. The feedback would tell you whether what you're building or what the team has built within that sprint, they are in line with the objective from the customer. And the final phase in the Deming cycle is the act phase, which is also called the adjust, where you have to really, apply any kind of ideas. It's just like actioning the items that team has been able to reflect on during the sprint retrospective. And then you kind of close out the phase. So the final stage, which is the adjust, is also an improvement stage where the team has to okay, let's say in the sprint retrospective, what are we going to improve on in the next coming sprints? So the Deming cycle makes it more simpler for you as a Scrum Master, or even if you're not a Scrum Master, on how you can even plan out your day-to-day activity ideas, it could be vacation, it could be even whatever it is, whatever business idea, whatever services you're rendering. How do you make sure that you continuously deliver and satisfy the interests of your customers? Now, I mean, the Deming cycle is an iterative process for continuous improvement. I mean, from this image you see on my screen, you can see it starts with a plan, and then it goes like iterative nature, and you do, you check, you act. As soon as that phase is completed, the next cycle starts again, and then it repeats. It's a repetitive, just like a Scrum. If you have looked at the Scrum process that starts from backlog refinement, the sprint planning, the daily stand-up, the sprint review, and the sprint retrospective. So you can see that synchronization between the Deming cycle process and also the Scrum process, right? So the Deming cycle is just a way to figure out that the Scrum process follows the same cycle as the Deming process, okay? Now, you might be wondering, what are the versions of this Deming cycle and what are the benefits? There are lots of benefits, using the Deming cycle in your continuous improvement with your Scrum team, okay? I mean, before the benefits, there is another version for the Deming cycle. Instead of the PDCA, now there is an addition of O, right? The O stands for observation, right? So you need to observe the current process and see if there is any need for improvement. Again, I've also emphasized this in one of the contents. If you are a Scrum Master and you are new to a team or a new organization, don't be in a haste to start applying change, because most of the times you get resistance. The first thing I would encourage, and I've always encouraged, is to observe, learn as much as you can, right? So observation is one key thing. I remember that Scrum is built on empiricism. And what does empiricism mean? Empiricism is about observation, right? We gain knowledge through what we see, we gain knowledge through what we read, we gain knowledge through what we observe, right? So now one of the benefits of the Deming cycle is, and again, continuous improvement and development. Knowledge is always, we grow in knowledge. So there's no stagnation when it comes to knowledge, right? Let's say you have been adopting this method and it doesn't really help out. You can also use another method, that is knowledge, right? Knowledge without application is no knowledge, right? So that is one thing I will say is one of the benefits of that. The second thing is the flexibility of the Deming cycle. Any organization, be it IT sector, be it customer service, be it communication sector, be it finance, be it human resource, be it education, can adopt and adapt this in a way that it helps them to deliver value. And the final benefit is about, it is easy to understand, right? It is easy to implement. All that matters is the ability to identify the process and the ability to the willingness to implement. Okay, so that's about the Deming cycle. Do you think this is something you could try in your day-to-day activity as a Scrum Master, or in helping your team to deliver value? Okay, if you are a stakeholder and your team is struggling and you don't know what process you could use in order to continue to deliver value, by all means, put your question in the comment section. You can email me, as you can see on top of my screen there. You see my email address. You see my YouTube channel, which you also on the page. You see my Instagram. Connect with me and let us continue to help to make sure that you deliver value to your customer. And if you're looking for a place to learn to become a Scrum Master, please, by all means, visit www.ineedscrummaster.com, or you can email me and we'll be able to set that up going. All right, that's where we're going to stop for today. I would love to hear your thoughts. Now that you have heard my own thoughts and I've shared my own knowledge, I want to hear what you're thinking. Do you think this is something you could adopt or implement in your organization or among your team? Is there something you think I'm missing here? Have you heard about this Deming cycle? If you've heard about the Deming cycle, can I get yes in the comment section? If you have not heard about the Deming cycle, please can I also get no in the comment section? Let us build this community of practice, okay? Thank you so very much. I appreciate you taking the time always in your busy schedule to visit my channel. It is my pleasure to always continue to work with you. Um, but I do appreciate your time. It is because of you that I'm here, and let us make this a community of practice. Thank you so much. In the meantime, I hope you stay well. Bye for now.